Welcome to the Fiscal Physical Podcast. Join us each week as we sit down with the founder of Alchemy Wealth Management and author of Your Fiscal Physical, Ryan Nelson. Tune in to gain valuable insights and practical tips as we simplify complex financial concepts into digestible lessons. From budgeting to retirement planning, this podcast is your go-to resource for mastering financial literacy.
Welcome, everybody, to this week's episode of the Fiscal Physical Podcast. My name is Aaron. I am here with Ryan Nelson, founder of Alchemy Wealth Management, published author. He's got all sorts of accolades. You guys know the drill here if you've been a long-time listener, or maybe it's your first time. If so, welcome in. But first off, Ryan, how you doing today?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
Not too bad, man. Not too bad. I'm excited to be here, excited to dive into this episode we got this week. And it's one of my favorite kind of episodes here that we have some listener engagement.
Absolutely.
That fire you up as much as it fires me up.
Oh, yeah. I love these questions.
Oh, yeah. These are always fun to see. It's interesting to see like what our listeners have gotten from it, what they continue to get from it, and what questions that individuals just have in general. So how this is going to work, you guys are probably familiar with this. I'm going to go ahead and we're going to pause, and you're going to hear the question on your end, so everybody can listen to the melodious voice of a gentleman by the name of Sander, and then we'll come back and break it down. Does that work for you, Ryan?
Let's do it.
All right, everybody hang tight.
Hey, Ryan and Aaron. Awesome job on the podcast, boys. Weekly listener. Definitely love all the information and topics you guys talk about every week. I want to submit this question for you boys. So I've been seeing a lot of trends, talking points about we are heading to recession. We are in a recession. So we're trying to figure out, well, my big question is, what's the difference between the 2008 recession versus the 2026 recession? So it sounds like, in the 2008 recession, it was related to the housing market, but I'm still trying to figure out what the 2026 recession's all about. I'm just seeing it, and it's funny because I got a haircut this past week, and my barber said like he kind of noticed there's not a lot of people are coming to his barber shop, and it just seems like a lot of people are saving their money at this point. So I just wanted your thoughts on that. Awesome. Thank you, and stay the course.
All right. Thank you so much, Sander. And I really do want to thank all the listeners who tune in and also send us these questions. If you guys are interested in getting your question live on air, please let us know. We're going to be, we always love to find different topics and seek different things on what you guys want to know. So, Ryan, so it's interesting, this kind of topic of a recession. We've covered it in different podcasts previously. You know, looking back on our different episodes, I think we covered it a little bit in episode 67, episode 110. But I think it's a good one to cover of where we're at right now. So, what are your thoughts on this, my man? Like, what do you think when people say recession? You know, the news might say it, but does it mean that everything's going to crash, or what's going on?
Yeah. So funny enough, so we both personally know Sander, of course, right?
Yep.
And so since he's a good friend of both of ours, I feel obligated to bust his chops a little bit.
Sure. Drag him a little.
Yeah, of course. And so the funny thing is, so the day we received this listener question, I pulled up, I was like, I feel like the market's doing okay. But so I pull up the stock market. How do you think the stock market was doing that day?
I'm guessing it's crushing it that day.
It was at all-time highs. It literally hit all-time highs that day. So what's kind of funny is, and one thing I think I want to call out before we dive into this episode about recessions, but there often is this disconnect between perception and reality. Mm-hmm. Sure. So Sander's not alone here. He mentioned he was talking to his barber, and there's probably multiple people involved in this conversation, all discussing the same topic, having the same feeling, and actually believing that we are in a recession, when the actual facts are we are not. At that point in time, and at the point of this recording, we were not in a recession.
Right.
And so what's kind of interesting is, again, there's this perception of what's going on in the market, and then this reality of what's going on in the market, and those things things are not always exactly aligned. So I find that kind of just interesting.
That's funny. I'm sure Sandra will get a kick out of that too.
Yeah,
he's a good sport.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, he exactly. Yeah. But so anyway, so let's again. So I would argue at this exact point in time, as we're recording this episode and as we got the listener question, we are not in a recession. That being said, recessions are normal, so we will be in a recession at some point in the future. So let's talk about what a recession is. So a recession is when the economy shrinks 2 quarters in a row. So typically, well, I will say, so it is a definition. The definition is it shrinking 2 quarters in a row. So it's not just a feeling, right? I know he mentioned that his barber felt like there were less clients coming in the door. That is not a recession. The fact, if you look at our GDP, how that is doing over the course of the last few quarters, that is how the recession is defined. So there's an organization out there called the National Bureau of Economic Research. So it's always abbreviated NBER. They are who makes the call if we're in a recession or not.
Okay.
And again, it's typically if the economy has shrunk the last 2 quarters in a row, and they often make that call months later. But again, my point, recessions are normal. We have many of them. We've recovered from all of them. And again, the fact that when we got this listener question, we were at market highs, you can imagine we've had many, many, many recessions in the past. Mm-hmm. If we were at market highs at this point in time, that means we must have recovered from every single past recession, right? So kind of interesting. But yeah, so, and if we think about how often we have these, so since World War II, we've on average had a recession about every 6 years. So that gives you an idea of how frequent they are. About every 6 years, we'll have a recession, statistically speaking, in the past.
Yeah, that makes sense. And something that Sandra had mentioned there, and it seems like a common thing I'm curious to get your breakdown on it of why people always jump to 2008 when they think of recessions. Like that seems to just be the hot button topic.
Sure.
And I don't know. I know Sanders around my age too. So we were like 18, 19, 17, somewhere in there at that point. So I don't know if that was like our first like experience with the economy or what. Why do you think most people jump to that to compare it?
Yeah, I mean, well, a lot of people call it the Great Recession, so it was more extreme than most. There's other recessions that, you'll have 2 quarters of shrinking GDP. It bounces, maybe it's not that severe of shrinking, and it bounces right back the next quarter, and you forget about something like that a lot faster than a recession that takes multiple quarters and is much deeper, right? So not all recessions are created equal, and the 2008, or the Great Recession, as some people refer to it, was more severe. That being said, so the 2008 was a banking and housing collapse. So there was a specific cause for that recession. And now, or in response, I should say, to that recession, there's been a lot more regulatory oversight. So banks have put more steps into place to try to make sure and avoid, if at all possible, that happening again, right? Yeah. So there's a lot of now steps in place for that exact same type of recession. It'd be harder for that to happen again. Anything's possible, but one of the sayings I love is that like history doesn't repeat itself, but it does rhyme. I think that was Mark Twain or somebody. I think it was Mark Twain.
All right, I'll look that up.
Yeah, check, trust but verify.
Yeah.
Somebody said it.
Somebody said it.
Yeah, if nobody said it, let's just go ahead and credit it to me.
Absolutely.
But so history doesn't repeat itself, right? But it does rhyme. So each of these recessions, there will be another one in the future and another one after that and another one after that. And a lot of times they feel the same. They're not necessarily the same, but a lot of times the feeling is the same, right? And so that's why I think a lot of people gravitate back towards the most severe one in their recent recollection, which would be 2008. So I think that's why a lot of people come back to 2008.
No, that makes sense. I mean, you can only you go on based on like what you what you know, or you feel what you feel. So it's like, something that maybe happened in the 1990s, I have no idea about, but like I think about something that happened in 2008. I still think about that. I was in high school. So I'm like, oh, I know people who like lost their houses or these certain things that went through that. So it kind of sticks and holds that impact. So yeah, it's interesting about to think about that. But with that in mind, if we're in a recession or we're not in a recession, what do you tell somebody, I guess, when you have a client who comes in and says, oh, I see my balances have been dipping for 2 straight quarters or 3 straight quarters or what it is. Like, how do you help them balance that, I suppose?
Yeah. So if a client reaches out and they're concerned about their portfolio being down, let's say. So first, like if a client were to reach out right now and they were concerned about the recession, it's really just an education topic, right? It's informing them that we're actually not in a recession and that this disconnect exists between sort of the perception of what's going on and the reality of what's going on. And it's maybe a evil game I play, but a lot of times when a client calls in and has a question like that or something, I'll just ask them like, how much do you think your account's down like year to date? And it's funny because a lot of times they'll say 10%, 15% or something. And then in a scenario like this, their account might be up 10%.
Right.
And so it's like their perception is their account was down 10 or 15%. And then when I tell them, no, your account's actually up 10% this year, it's like, oh, wow. Okay. The data is telling a very different story than I thought, which is kind of interesting because it's like, why, how is that possible? How could they believe their account is down when the actual objective truth is their account is up? And the reality is like news sells fear, right? Fear sells and negativity sells. And so when you think about the news outlets, like they're financially incentivized to put more negative news and fear out than positive news. And so, in general, most of us, we're consuming more negative news. Even if the market tends to be up, you're consuming more negative news. That informs your belief system. And all of a sudden you start believing that, the market must be down, when sometimes the objective reality is just the opposite of that. So oftentimes it's just an education thing. If somebody were to call in now, again, I would just walk them through the sort of education of like the reality of what's going on in the market. Now, that being said, there will be a recession again at some point in the future. So it is possible that their account's down 20% and they call in, right? If that would take a completely different response. That we would recognize the fact that the market's down, and we would also let them know that we've planned for this, right? Like if we have a comprehensive financial plan, we know that this is typical. We mentioned earlier that we think this, or like historically speaking, this has happened about every 6 years. We're not building a plan thinking that this is never going to happen in the future. Like we air quotes, we quote unquote know that this will happen again in the future. And so we're planning for it to happen. So when it does happen, it's completely fine. It's still part of our plan. We're still on track for our retirements. And oftentimes we re-level set, reframing the conversation around, are we on track for our goals? Most of the time when we see like our portfolio down 10% or down 20%, that hurts us, right? Emotionally, that's painful. Right. But why is it painful? Like if we dig deeper, it's like, because we think it means we won't be able to retire, or we'll run out of money, or we'll have to work longer. And so when we can reset and actually, if our goal is actually to retire at a certain age or stay retired or spend X amount of money, and we can reframe it and say, okay, your account's down 10% and we're still able to achieve your retirement goals, then it starts to like give us that freedom to stay the course, right? And take a step back, take a deep breath and stay steady. So yeah, that's what I'd walk a client through.
I think that's important too, because you're a big proponent of, like you mentioned, stay the course and having these plans. Nobody knows what's going to come tomorrow or whatever, but it's like being prepared for these certain situations. And I think you've mentioned it before, maybe I can't remember, but it's like control what you can control. Yeah, I think that's a big piece of okay, I can't personally control what the market's going to do tomorrow, but what I can control is being on top of my the financial planning piece of it too. Maybe I'm 63, about to retire. Do I want to have 90% in like volatile stocks at that point, or should I have like the more of the lifeboats at that point and be kind of coasting home, like more safer investments? I think it's important to balance that like panic with like control. I think it's always an interesting kind of like you've mentioned many times, spreadsheet answer, real life answer. And I think your job, and one you do very well, is like bridging that gap between like, hey, this is what it says, this is what you're feeling, totally valid, but how do we prepared for that? And I think that's a big thing with whether you're with Alchemy Wealth Management or a different financial institution, like ensuring that that's done is just going to help you sleep at night a little bit better versus like during these, I'm quoting right now, recession. That's according to Sander. Thank you. Yeah, exactly.
But so overall, I'd say, recessions are normal. They're survivable. It itself is not really a big process. It's just part of it, or it's not a big issue. It's just part of the normal process. Today is not 2008. And I would say, as always, stay the course and just ignore the noise even through recessions, and you'll be just fine.
Awesome. I appreciate it, Ryan. Thank you so much. We'll go ahead and take a pause here. Everybody hang tight with us. We'll be right back on the other side of this.
And now, to put the personal in personal finance.
Welcome back, everybody, to this side of the Fiscal Physical podcast. This is still Aaron, still here with Ryan. And today, Ryan, I got a question for you. You ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So what is one product or company or something that you would happily endorse? It could be a brand, a gadget, a product, something like that. I'm curious what you find value in when it comes to that.
Yeah. So there's this training company I got involved with a while back. It's called TriDot. This was like, I don't know, 5+ years ago, like before the Chat GPT AI boom. But basically they're like AI for training.
Oh, cool.
And, I've always wanted, like, man, when you do a workout, why can't this training system, this computer, like kind of analyze that workout and then kind of from that workout data identify, like, if you're exhausted, if you're healthy, if you're getting faster, if you're getting slower, and then like create new workouts based on that, right? And like way oversimplified, but that's more or less what TriDot could do. So it's a triathlon training platform. They recently launched RunDot, but it's a fitness training companies, RunDot and TriDot, and it helps basically train for endurance events, and it uses this AI backbone to do it. So yeah, I've been a huge fanboy of TriDot for like five years, probably more. But so I love those. I also love Garmin. I think I've worn a Garmin watch. Like, I was trying to think about it. It's been like every day for like 10 or 15 years.
Oh, wow.
I don't even know. Right. I've had so many of their watches, and their customer service. I personally have always had amazing experiences with their customer service. Like,
big piece. Yep.
Yeah, they have replaced many watches for me for free, and they've just always been like really, really good and fair to me. So those who know me, I also know that I'm a huge Garmin fanboy as well. So those are maybe my two companies that come top to mind that I love and would be happy to.
Yeah.
If you want
to sponsor us.
Yeah, right. And I'm always telling people to hop on those bandwagons. What about you?
Yeah, it's funny too for the listeners out there. Obviously, this isn't live televised. You're wearing a TriDot hat now too, which is funny. I don't know if that was planned or not when we did this, but I was like, oh, he's got a hat on. For myself, I was thinking about, there's a lot of products that I like. There's only a few that, like, if I endorse something or talk about something, like, I'm like, it has to get me pretty excited, pretty fired up. And so one of the things is, first off, I've worn the same shoes since I was like 15.
Sure.
These Adidas
pretty
shoes.
Worn out, huh?
Yeah, they're very worn out. I should probably get a new pair. That's why I need a sponsorship.
Yeah.
But I wear these like Adidas shoes that fit my feet really well. I got pretty narrow feet. And I've tried other shoes and such too, but these just really fit well, and I'm just very comfortable in them, and I know what I'm going to get. So huge fan. I literally, like, every year I'll buy like every like 8. I get about 8 to 9 months of use out of them. So I'll buy like 1 to 2 pairs a year. But this year I normally go with these white ones with the black stripes. I just switched up and got black ones with white stripes. So
smart.
Yeah. So I'm really branching out here, doing some fun stuff. The other one is, I got a young kid. I got a 2.5-year-old, and we've had a couple of car seats with him. There's this one, it's called Even Flow, and it's like a car seat. You can, like, it swivels, like, so you don't have to, like, just like weasel your kid into it. You can turn it, like, so it sounds stupid or whatever, but it's a huge benefit.
It rotates 90 degrees, so it faces the door when you put the kid in, and then you can re-rotate it.
I can rotate it the other way too. It rotates like it goes like a 180, I suppose. 360. Yeah, I don't know if. Yeah, I think it'll go all the way around. Yeah, and so it's kind of cool. So if, like, your kids get in on the other side of the car, like, you can rotate it that way too, or you want to, like, I don't know, he wants to get out the other side of the car, like, you can just make it happen. So it's been a huge game changer. I have like a normal one that's in my car, and then in our other car, our family car, we have that one, and it's just, I recommend it to everybody. It's a little expensive, but I'm like, oh, it's totally worth it. Like, you're going to save your back, and it's just going to be an easier, the transition for everybody. So
yeah, that's awesome.
Big proponent of those guys. Probably got other ones that I'm out there too. It's probably could get sponsored by a food company somewhere. I do like to eat there, but
Pizza Baron.
Pizza Baron. No, now we're talking. Now we're talking. Yeah. But awesome. Appreciate it, Ryan. Thank you so much for sharing. Thanks, everybody out there who's listening. Let us know. Weigh in. I'd love to hear what you guys' products, what you like to endorse and use on a daily basis. And hope you guys learned something today. And these episodes drop every Tuesday morning. Make sure to set your watch to that. And with that, Ryan, I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah. Thanks again, Sander, for sending in the question. And as always, stay the course.
Thank you for joining us for the Fiscal Physical Podcast. Until next time, happy listening. And as always, stay the course. If you have a question or topic suggestions, please email us at podcast@alchemywealth.com. If you enjoyed today's discussion, subscribe to the podcast to ensure you never miss an episode. And consider leaving us a rating and review on your favorite platform. This helps other listeners like you find the show. For more resources, you can visit Alchemy Wealth Management's website at www.alchemywealth.com or find your Fiscal Physical, the book, on Amazon. We'd be remiss if we didn't mention that personal finance is just that, personal. Please don't take anything we say as advice. The preceding content is for informational and entertainment purposes only. It's not an offer or a solicitation, nor should it be construed or relied upon for tax, legal, or investment advice. It doesn't consider your personal financial situation or objectives and may not be suitable for you.